Well, it happened. 35-34, TCU defeated Texas Tech. The Red Raiders led by as many as 17 points in the second half. So many crazy things happened in the game, including Baron Morton getting hurt at the end of the first half. Will Hammond coming in and playing flawlessly for at least the third quarter before, a lot of bad things happen. He dropped the ball on one play that led to a punt. And then, of course, the fumble at the end of the game when they were setting up uh, a field goal try, a potential at least go ahead. I don't. There was too much time left to say game winning, especially the way the defense was struggling late. All game and all season. But bottom line is 35-34. TCU defeated Texas Tech. That's Texas Tech's second straight loss after winning four straight. Red Raiders are in a tough spot at this point of the season. Really looking at Baylor at home and TCU on the road, that look like two of your biggest opportunities for victories. And with a lot of the tougher games, Iowa State is next in Ames. I'm not saying that game is unwinnable or anything like that, but on paper, it looks more difficult than the last two you just lost. Colorado appears to be a tough matchup with what they're really good at compared to what you're not. If you're Texas Tech, I'm trying to think about Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State hadn't played well, but it's there, so it's going to be tough. And then West Virginia, if you don't, if things snowball this season and Tech doesn't play well, they'll come in and kick your butt. They've shown an ability to do that. They're not a great team, but they're not a terrible team either. So, it's a tough point at the of the schedule. This is a tough loss. You had last week where you just get pantsed at home against Baylor, and you had to deal with that. This one's a close game where you were winning, and the other team came back and beat you. So that's a whole nother thing to kind of get over if you're the Texas Tech team. So I'm going to go ahead and I need to do something real quick, and then I'll jump on and start. There's already a lot of comments. I'll dive into these comments, but just bear with me here for a few ticks. All right, let's look at the stats real quick, and then I'll get into your comments. Well, TCU, I mean, the stats are pretty close. TCU outgained Texas Tech 461 to 438 overall. I think Tech was +2 in turnovers. Of course, the last one, I think the only one by Texas Tech was the costliest turnover. Of course, Baron Morton going down, but Will Hammond came in and he looked terrific. Threw for a touchdown, ran for another. I think Jacoby Williams, true freshman running back, was also a bright spot. He had 42 yards rushing on 8 carries. He averaged over 5 yards a carry. Caleb Douglas had another very good game. A week after catching 3 touchdown passes, he caught 9 passes for 140 yards. Today, defensively, it was going to be losses. Harvey Dyson had a whale of a game. I mean, he had a hell of a game. That strip sack, he had a deflection that led to an interception. Got pressure a couple other times, but that's the gist of it. Special teams was better, much better today, but I'm going to go ahead and there's already dozens of comments or questions, so I'm going to get into that now. Brett Branson said, "What a bad time." Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm trying not to be too doom and gloom, but that was a tough loss. 1-point loss at TCU when you're up by 17 points. The way you lost, you overcame a lot of adversity, but in the end, TCU made the plays to win the game. So, and I think one of the things I'm seeing, and this isn't uncommon, but really seeing a lot of people, blaming the coaches, which I have no problem with. I certainly was blaming the coaches at the end the Baylor game. This one, I feel like more, the players made some mistakes, but some of the decisions were not good. Ultimately, you lost a game that you probably should have won. considering you're up by 3 scores in the second half. So, I mean, I get it, but people are understandably upset for sure. I'm seeing that on Inside the Red Raiders, and I've seen it on social media, and I'm assuming here on YouTube as well. Jason Baumgartner said such a heart-wrenching loss. It really was. Billy Blueheart says, loosey goosey, the sky's falling. Stephen Rosa says, this game hurt. Kitley really makes Tech look incompetent at times. I mean, not just Kitley, for sure. CYTTU says 5-5 after the Colorado game. I mean, I think that's a real possibility. Tech sits at 5-3 right now and 3-2 in the Big 12. And I mean, you're going to be big road underdogs at Iowa State next week. Then Colorado come in, and you'll probably be a home underdog against Colorado. So, excuse me. And like I said, with Shadur Sanders, the receiving core, just what they're really good at, what their strength is just really goes against what Tech's biggest weakness is, which I believe is pass defense. Even though they did get some pressure today, but still, I mean, TCU, Josh Hoover was able to bomb away in the second half, and that's what allowed them to come. That's one of the things that allowed them to come back and win that game. Joe Gutierrez says, "WTF, brother? Yeah, this is going to be a tough one. I mean, it is. It's a tough one to take. There's just no way around it. Heartbreaker of a loss. This is Thomas Gilbreth. He said, heartbreaker of a loss. I don't understand not putting the ball in Taj's hands at the end. Yeah, I think that's a legit question. I think they were clearly just trying to get the ball in the middle of the field for the go-ahead field goal try. And I think that's conservative, but okay. You got a true freshman quarterback really getting his first real playing time, even though he had been tearing it up. So I guess the question is, why not give it to Taj and let him do that? And I think they just thought the extra blocker, Taj is normally a good blocker, will just get down in the middle of the field and, obviously not spin into a giant. But that was a really good play by that TCU defensive lineman. So, I mean, you got to tip the cap to TCU as well. I know people don't want to hear that, and I understand that. But they made all the plays in the fourth quarter, it seemed like, in order to win that game. Jason Baumgartner says, hope Tech gets the 6th win. I think they will. But, again, the problem is, will they be playing meaningful football in November, which is what I've been clamoring for. And these losses to in-state conference rivals, Baylor and TCU, makes that very highly unlikely, let's put it that way. Christian Bretones says, just fire Kitley. I don't care if we went out, fire him. I mean, honestly, that's the main thing. It was funny is, like, to me, what's been the most frustrating has been the defense. And going around town and then on social media and online, Inside the Red Raiders, doesn't matter. That's where the frustration really seems to lie, is with Kitley more than anybody else. And I don't know. It just seems like maybe there's a lot of blame to go around, not just Kitley. CCC says, what'd you think about Burkhart's Trump shirt? Well, I think he should have made his kick. Matthew Hernandez says, might get ugly these next 2 games. Yeah, I agree. College football is so hard to predict. It'd be weird if they lost these 2 games and then won the next 2, but crazier things have happened to Texas Tech, even just recently. And but I mean, right now you got to think, yeah, they're staring down the barrel of a 4 or more game losing streak. Christian Bretones says DC can go too. Yeah, that's fair enough. Excuse me. Yeah. Between the radio show and by the time I get to these, even though this isn't as late as normal or recently, my voice, my throat is just gone. See, Gerald DeVrose says, why does Kittle always get cute and turn into trash? He cost us big time. Didn't use Taj. I mean, he did use Taj on that drive. It's just at the end. I think Taj got the carry before that 3rd down call, but that 3rd down call was costly, considering what happened. I think it's, Hammond's got a hold on the ball, though he looked like he was trying to cover the ball up. It was a good play by that defensive lineman. I don't have a problem with people having a problem with that call. Um, you know, yeah. I'm just like, yeah, at this point. I think it's play calling and execution, Joe Gutierrez. When you lose these kind of games, when you lose like you did against Baylor last week, and then against TCU today, whether it be Macho Stevenson in coverage, Will Hammond not holding on the ball. I think Taj dances around too much now. He's kind of read his press clippings a little bit, and while I do think his patience helps him a lot, there are times you got to just hit the hole hard. And he did it a couple of times in the game, but too much dancing around. So I mean, there's a lot of offensive line got pushed around some at times. So you could. I don't disagree with the argument that Tech was playing like not to lose there at the end. Definitely playing tight. So it's execution. Excuse me, and play calling. Gerald, yeah, he already said that. Amax said, let's see. Geez, there's a lot of comments. Amax said another gut punch loss. Yeah, I mean it was. Jason Baumgartner says, I'm just going to call you Baumgartner now. He says TV announcer said that Baskerville told McGuire to let DeRuiter call his defense. So it made me wonder if the TV announcer said things wrong or McGuire changed the D for Baylor. Yeah, McGuire, I mean, he said that in the press conference basically. And I asked McGuire a question in which he said Baskerville came to him and said, hey, let's go ahead and rush an extra guy and put the coverage on us. The problem is they did that, and while they did get some pressure, TCU dialed up one-on-one against Macho in the second half and just torched him. And Baskerville said, hey, put it on us. Well, they put it on the secondary to cover, and you got burnt. So it's just like at some point the personnel has to play better. I definitely do think they can't just sit back and rush three. They have to be aggressive and hope they make enough impactful plays and turnovers. And I mean, I think they forced 3 turnovers, so they did make a bit. They made a lot of plays on defense, but I guess they need to make one more. Mike Bauer says, "What's most frustrating is nobody knows how to fix this. I don't honestly think firing anyone was going to help. We are 0-4 with coaches since Leach." Yeah, see, I don't. I'm not going to sit here and defend McGuire after this loss, but I definitely don't think I'm not with everybody else that he's not the guy. So I'll leave it at that. Kim Coulter said 84-yard touchdown after a 52-yard completion and a 75-yard completion in the first half. I'll say it again. DeRuiter is the definition of insanity. Well, I don't think he did the same thing again. Same result, maybe, or actually it was big plays instead of of just methodically driving down the field. But the same result is that it was a loss. Mike Bauer said, thanks again for the post-game chats and positive outlet. I'm glad if it's coming across positive, then I'm glad. That's good. I'm not sure what your name is. I'm sorry. I can't pronounce it. Incomprehensible, I'll say. Hammond never should have been running the ball on the fumble play and should have tried to extend the drive given how bad the D played in the fourth quarter. I mean, I can't argue with that. I think it's a good. I think you could definitely make that. That's an easy argument to make. Both those points. Yes. It's ironic that I can't pronounce the name of the guy I agree with the most so far in the chat. Ryan Palmer says, how 17-point lead. All you have to do is not F up. Well, they effed up a lot. So, and TCU made the plays. You got to give them credit too. It's two-way street there. Amax says, be lucky to get 6 wins. That's what it feels like after these 2 losses. again, my biggest disappointment is these two games were winnable, even though the Baylor game didn't look like it and didn't feel like it during it. On paper, they both were winnable. You lost both. So what that means is, I mean, even if you get to a bowl game, yay. I felt like this season really needed to be where you're winning like around 8 games. You still feel like you're in the mix, at least playing some kind of meaningful game in November. And these losses means that's highly unlikely. Gerald DeVos says, Hussey is getting hotter. I mean, I don't think Kitley's seat is that hot. I mean, Tech was leading the Big 12 in points scored coming into this game. I'm not saying he's been great. I'm not saying all that, but to me, there have been some serious problems, and the defense has been historically bad. I mean, my Joe Yeager on Inside the Road Raiders detailed that last week. I mean, you're talking about Lyle Sintich. I can't say Sintich. You know what I'm talking about. That's that type of defense in terms of statistics. The only saving grace is they forced a lot of turnovers this year, and that's a big deal. Forced turnovers is a big deal. But this defense has been really bad, and I like DeRuyter. His resume is great. I thought he did some good things the first 2 years on defense. But, I mean, somebody will likely have to pay if this season does actually fall off the cliff. And we're sprinting towards, all gas, no brake towards the edge of a cliff right now with these two losses for Texas Tech. So, but if that happens, somebody's going to have to pay. And if you look at the way the two sides of the ball perform, or all three, if you count special teams, defense, I mean, you're talking about like 130th in almost every metric, or like 125th, something like that, all around there. Other than turnovers, which matter, while the offense is, been like top 20 in a lot of metrics, special teams has been pretty good outside of Baylor and Washington State. And so, I mean, I'd have to say DeRuyter would be the first on the chopping block, to be honest. Christian Bertone says, this is what happens when you get a lead and take your foot off the gas. Yeah, I agree. Drinking Jameson Black Barrel. Any recommendations? JLC 23. Yeah, right now, I got a full bar. So I have many options. My bourbon of choice right now, and was last week too, and I haven't gotten into that yet. Tonight I probably will at some point, but is this Woodford Double Oaked? I talked about it, and they're not a sponsor or something. I'm just I'm a fan of it. And then, man, for my cheap kind of rock gut or whatever is Makers. It seems to go down fine. Is like I said, it's cheap. So, but I may try that Jameson, man. Glenn Ann says, we knew coming in that the defense was young and we lost some key guys. But the Kitley play calling is horrendous and we're not maximizing the potential of this offense. All right. JLC says, any question? Like, do I have any questions to y'all? I don't think so. CJ Stark says, I want to see accountability and fire from the coaching staff. Macho gave a big play after big play. They kept him in. It is pathetic at this point. I mean, that was a really bad performance by him for sure. Kim Coulter says, Tech defense is 130 out of 132. Tell me again how great DeRuyter is. Yeah, that's not what I said. David Floyd says, third down, Zach Kitley should have called for a Taj Brooks run. He should be fired for that. He should be fired for that one call? Damn. Ken Coulter says, I'm off the Joey bandwagon until Joey fires both coordinators. Sick of being embarrassed. Okay. Kim Coulter also said he doesn't see Tech winning another game. Renee Rocha said, group of losers. That's it. Okay. JLC _ 23 says, we will beat Iowa State. Bro, I hope you're right. We'll see what happens. Thomas Gilbreth asked the question. He says he's still trying to hold on to hope for the future, but it gets difficult after these last two losses. Do you think the coaching staff has what it takes to get Tech to where we want them to be as a program? I think there has, and people really don't want to hear this, but you asked me the question, I'll give you my honest answer. There has been considerable growth. I mean, Tech has the last two seasons posted winning records in the Big 12. Now that the first time McGuire did that was the first time Tech had done that since 2009, posted a winning record in the Big 12, and he's done it twice. This year, it looked like he was on track to do it for a third time, and it had been a long time since Tech had done that. Long time. Had 3 consecutive conference winning records. So, and recruiting's improved. I think right now it feels like Tech's taken 2 steps forward and 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So you're just barely inching a little better. And right now, with this season, the way it's going, and it's not done yet. Tech has been really good in November under McGuire over the first 2 seasons. So let's see what happens there. But the way the season is right in this moment, it feels like you didn't take a step forward at all this season. So, and that's disappointing. I think the facilities are top notch. I think the investment in the program in terms of NIL is competitive. You say on what level? I'll say on the level of most Big 12 schools. So I think there's a lot of good things on the ball for Texas Tech. It just really doesn't feel like it right now after these 2 losses. And I feel like criticizing the coaches for their mistakes is more than valid, especially that Baylor game. But, I do think I'm an end result kind of guy. And the end result was you lost, and in part because you put the ball in your true freshman quarterback's hands, and he fumbled. Now, he had been playing really well, so, I get that, but you got a fifth-year senior, one of your all-time best running backs back there, and then you got a true freshman who hadn't made a start yet, and who you decide to have the ball. So I get that criticism. I'm not going to defend that. I think that should be criticized. I get it. I get the idea was that Tosh could block. You have an extra blocker. But, it looked like they obviously were just trying to set up a field goal anyways. And you're already in field goal range. So in terms of just getting the ball in the middle of the field. But my answer is yes, I do think the program, the whole staff, I don't know. But in terms of McGuire being a good enough coach to get Texas Tech to where it's top 3 or 4 programs in the Big 12, I think that's possible. Whether he does it or not, I don't know. But what we're seeing right now is, as we sit here today, is not a step forward. And that's disconcerting. So, but, I've seen that with other coaches before in the past who've gone on to have a lot of success. So, I do think they have some young talent. I think we saw some of it today. Will Hammond, Jacoby Williams. There are some younger players on defense who have potential. But I get why some people will be skeptical, but I do think there are stats, records, things like that in terms of showing success over what Tech has been. Let's be honest, Tech has been barely fighting to be bowl eligible for the last 15 years in most seasons. So yeah, it's shown improvement. It's just going slower, and I think we want to see. That's my best answer. Erasmo Gutierrez says, do you see any midseason coaching changes? I think it's possible. I think look to the second bye week is probably when that would happen. I don't know that. It's not like inside talk or anything, but coaches generally and programs generally like to make moves when they have a bye week if possible. And so there's one on the horizon coming up in November. That would be when it would happen. Decimus Maximus Decimus Meridius. Can't wait for Gladiator 2, by the way. Says, you're more optimistic than so many of us. Convince us Kitley and McGuire know what they're doing. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to convince you they know what they're doing right now after this loss. I just laid out, and I think you typed that before, I laid out my thinking about it. But in terms of getting a higher quality of recruits, the actual wins and losses being improved, those kind of things, I mean, it's on paper. So for you to see, it's human nature for us to not want to hear that. Like, I'm a huge Cowboys fan, so I'm miserable right now. I don't want to hear about the Dallas Cowboys. That's just how I am as a fan. And I don't want to, I'm not going to puff my chest out about, 3 Super Bowls in the 90s or something like that, but it happened. My point is, I get not wanting to hear some guy try and like spin it as positive. So I'm not trying to do that. These losses were bad. The coaches, again, going back to Baylor, like, to me, that was big time on them. But they'd certainly share the blame for some decisions and the way some things played out in today's game. But some of it's on the players as well. And so I get all the criticism, but just overall, it's my job to step back and try and look at it objectively. And what I see is, yes, improvement in a program that has been inconsequential for the better part of 15 years, really since Mike Leach left, let's be honest. I see it incrementally getting better and with an opportunity to get there. I really do. Now, they're clearly not there today. So that's the truth. Renee Rocha said, oh, yeah, the defense handed the weak offense the ball and over in the first half, but they did nothing. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Jack Smith said, for a supposed track star, Macho Stevenson is struggling, looks slow and unsure of himself. Rough couple of games for him. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's supposed to be the thing, is that he's a, like you said, track star, high-end speed guy, but it's not showing up on the field, and that's what's important. Matthew Hernandez says, Indiana football is undefeated. We have zero excuse for never getting our shit together. And I think that's a point. Like, Monty Joe and I kind of lament is, like, it seems like every program has at least that one magical year. When was Texas Tech's magical year? I mean, you could say 2008, but then again, the way it ended, it wasn't. It was a solid, like, really good, memorable year. You could even say a great season, but I mean, you end up getting blown out by Oklahoma, and then I don't remember the bowl game, but because it didn't matter, so Tech still hasn't had that, like, magical run, that magical year, and that sucks. Baumgartner says the sideline wide receiver screen passes on 3rd and long are ridiculous to watch on repeat. Yeah, I said that in the game thread on Inside the Red Raiders. Like, dude, what are you doing? I mean, like, first 3rd and 7, like, I hated that call. Hated it. And I hate it in general. I don't have a problem with occasional screens, loosening up stretching the defense horizontally, opens up your running game, opens up holes to pass over the middle. But going to as much as they did, going to it on 3rd to medium to long, I hated it. Fubar says, how does Hammond not be instructed to do anything other than fumble? I mean, you're right. I bet he was. And it looked like he was trying to cover the ball up with 2 hands, but you got a 300 and whatever pounder, zeroed in on the ball coming at you, at least at high speed, if not full speed. I mean, something's going to give, and it was the ball. Or his grip on the ball. I really wish he had ducked under instead of trying to spin off for inconsequential couple extra yards, but it was a bang bang play. You got to tip the cap again to TCU, and welcome to the Big 12, Rook. And he was so impressive early on, and I think he has a really bright future. But that was obviously a really bad play. It cost Tech the game. Ryan Palmer says, do you think we could have a QB controversy if Morton was ruled healthy? Yeah, I think they should. I mean, Hammond looked great up until that play. He had that one where the ball fell out of his hand, and then, obviously the fumble. But I think yeah, I absolutely think there could be a controversy. It's going to be with the fans no matter what, for sure. Dustin Mc says, "Who calls a damn quarterback sneak? Let me as a draw or quarterback sweep, really." I think they were just trying to get the ball in the middle of the field. I really wish he had just slid down in the middle of the field, but he didn't. Incomprehensible. Uncompagre, it's my best shot, says he went to the Washington State and TCU games in both losses. Half ticks to Colorado. Maybe, yeah, you should skip for sure. Don't jinx the Red Red. No, I don't think it's your fault. That should be a good atmosphere. Billy Blueheart says Hammond coming in reminded him of Morton coming in and balled out against Oklahoma State. Yeah, it was similar. That's true. Okay. Kim Coulter says Josh Kelly had 19 yards. 19 yards. Well, he was hurt for one. He was playing injured. But that, just so you know, I don't know if you knew that. Micah is so gone at the end of the season. That's not necessarily true. Only Tech wouldn't find a way to know. Okay. Why does Tech always have QB running, taking big hits? Lost starting QB 7 straight years. Why can't they slide or throw the ball away? Yeah. D. Wayne says, Jared, I'm so sad. How do you give that game away? I can't believe this. Kidley needs fired. That last play is unforgivable. I mean, I'm not going to argue against that last play. Again, fifth-year senior, one of the best running backs in program history. Is probably who should have had the ball in his hands, since you're going to call run anyways. Erasmo Gutierrez says, I live in South Korea. I'm getting tired of waking up at 3 a.m. to watch such gut-wrenching gameplay. Well, and that's a real thing. You lose games like this, and that people start tuning out, and that is your choice. I completely understand. Team Crop Duster says, Kidley's play call on 3rd and 7 or longer with screens is annoying. Amen. Screens should be used to slow down over-aggressive pass rushers, not because of the looks the defense gives, as Kidley says. Yep, that's part of it for sure. It's also about, again, stretching the defense, opening up other plays, but it's called way too much and in bad situations for sure. Mark Dunlap says, been a Joey fan, but this loss is on him. Terrible play calling at the end, just terrible. Hey, man, I understand it's your fandom. It's your choice. Cowboys season says, what a missed opportunity for Tech these past 2 games. Could have been 7-1 going into Iowa State for a shot at the Big 12 championship. I think that is the most important point of, including anything I've said in this live chat, is that it's just an opportunity blown, you know? And look, Baylor kicked your butt, so it didn't seem like that fourth quarter, like they didn't have to play that fourth quarter. And it was such a butt kicking, but I think so many other things went into it. Like, I don't think Baylor's that much better than Tech. They were on that Saturday, and that's what mattered. Not taking anything away from them. I'm just saying, get an opportunity there. Baylor at home to win that game. And then you're up by 17 points in Fort Worth today in the second half and blew that. Like you said, what an opportunity wasted. And unfortunately, how many times have we seen that with Texas Tech, like, for our lifetimes with football? Other sports is, different story, but with football, man, it's just for one for bad luck, Tech football fans will have no luck for sure. Random account says Matt Campbell's next week. They're undefeated and coming off a bye in Ames in November. We literally played them there last time. I can't wait to have our team get crushed by Matt Campbell next week. Okay. Renee Rocha says, laugh out loud. Love listening to Tech Insider dismiss the team being typical. Okay. Brad Butler says, and this is something that happens when Tech loses, man, fans start lashing out, and all of a sudden, like, us folks who cover, we have literally no impact on the outcome of football games, but just trying to figure things out. And I get access to coaches and players and stuff like that. So, and try and be a conduit for fans to their program they love. But you start seeing people like Renee Rocha who lashes out at media. You're asking tough questions. And, like, I don't know if it makes y'all feel better or what, but I literally have no say on the outcome of football games, but go ahead. Brad Butler says, I started puking and throwing up after this loss. My stomach can't tell. Oh, man, I'm sorry, Brad. Dang. Man, it's sports. This isn't, I mean, that's cool that you love the team so much, but man, don't let it twist you inside and out to the point where you're getting sick over it. That's for sure. Billy Blueheart says, to be fair, I'd rather see a screen than a 40-yard fail on 4th and 1. Okay. All right. Well, gone for over 35 minutes. It's been a good chat. Bottom line is Texas Tech lost. They lost 2 in a row. 35-34 TCU with a comeback victory over Texas Tech in Fort Worth next week. Like it's been pointed out, really tough game on paper against Iowa State in Ames. So, win or lose or whatever happens, we'll have another post-game live chat after that. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Thanks for chatting. And until next time.